How are you doing today? I want to give a special welcome to our replay viewers who are watching this on replay. We are so happy that you are jumping on to catch the replay of this one and see what it is all about. And then also a very special hello to all of our live viewers for today. It's always great to have you guys on with me when we do the Facebook Lives because I like having somebody to talk to, with, leave your comments with. I am Pam Barnhill. I have 3 homeschooling podcasts and 3 kids I homeschool. I should tell Sarah McKenzie that you should have as many podcasts as you have children. That would be awesome. But anyway, 3 children I homeschool and then 3 homeschooling podcasts. I have the Your Morning Basket podcast, which is all about morning time, bringing truth, goodness, and beauty to your homeschool day. I have the Homeschool Snapshots podcast, which is interviews with homeschooling moms and dads. And we had our very first dad on this week. We've got another one coming up later this season, but we had our very first dad on this week, an interview with Chris Tilley. So go check that out. And then also I have the Homeschool Solution Show, which is an audio blog of the best homeschool content on the web, streaming straight to your earbuds every Friday. I was talking to a mom 2 nights ago who's a quilter. And she was telling me that she loves the Homeschool Solutions Show because she can listen to blog posts while she quilts. So that just made me all kinds of happy. So I see some of our friends are coming on. Hello, Juliana. I know that Bambi's here. Don't know if Dawn is here yet. Dawn Garrett is my right-hand lady. Guys, I could not do this job without Dawn and without Jessica. And all the wonderful, funny stuff on my Facebook page is Miss Kara Anderson, who has the best sense of humor. She's cracking me up. I'm wanting to like the stuff on my page because of what Kara's putting on there. So she is awesome. Haley types up our transcripts for us. And Mary is my research assistant for the podcast. So, and Dorella is another assistant that we have as well. So lots of assistants, but it's great because without them, I wouldn't be able to do all of this stuff. So thank you so much, ladies, for all of your help. So today our topic is all about what we're calling level 2 of the new homeschool mom. So last week, hey Tina and hey Christy, last week we did level 1 of the new homeschool mom. So this was like the person who hadn't even started yet or was just thinking about getting started. And so if you are that person, you have not homeschooled at all, you're just getting started, maybe for whatever reason you felt like you needed to pull your kids out of school and you're going to start next Monday. Whatever the reason, that particular episode was for you. This particular episode, we felt like we kind of needed to break this into 2 pieces because you get so many people who, for whatever reason, have this emergency situation where they're either they have to take their kids out and homeschool right now, or they have a situation that has just really turned their hearts to homeschooling and they're pulling their kids out at the end of the year and they're going to homeschool next year. And they really just have to get going. And that was what last week's Facebook Live was about. It was about getting going with homeschooling when you didn't have the luxury like a lot of us where you knew from the very beginning or from fairly early on that you were going to homeschool your kids and you had time to do all of this research. So now we're talking to the homeschool mom who has been doing it a year, probably less than a couple years. There's Dawn. And we're calling them the level 2 or the sophomore. That's a good word. They're the sophomore homeschool mom. So we have some resources for you today. So when you first start, you're kind of in survival mode, especially if you didn't have a lot of time to plan in advance. And really, it's okay. It is completely okay to be in survival mode. Your kids are not going to be ruined if basically you use your library card to homeschool for the first year. We gave you some curriculum recommendations like easy peasy or buying a boxed curriculum but not letting it be your master, not being a slave to it. So those were some of the recommendations we gave you. But now maybe you've been doing it a year and you've been in the homeschool circles and you've started hearing about all the different things that are out there. And this was a big thing for me. You know, I have a degree in English, but then I got all the classes I needed to get my teacher certification. So it was almost like a minor, though they didn't give me a minor in it. And I had taken all of these education classes so I could get my secondary English teacher certification in the state of Florida. And I had learned about Piaget, and I had learned about Gardner, and I had learned about multiple intelligences. I'm surprised I can remember this because that was a really long time ago. I had learned a teeny tiny bit about Montessori. I never learned anything about the classical model. I never heard Charlotte Mason. Obviously John Holt was not in there because he was the complete opposite of what they were trying to teach me. Never heard anything about neoclassical, none of that stuff. Did I ever hear anything about that? And so it was a shock to me as I got into teaching my kids, or even thinking about homeschooling my kids. When I was thinking about homeschooling, the very first thing I found online was Calvert. And I had not converted to Catholicism at that point. So I found Calvert. The Catholic equivalent would be Seton. And it's like, you do school at home. You bring like the entire school in a box into your house. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. But then the deeper I got into it and the more and more I researched homeschooling, the more I realized there were things out there I had never even heard of before. And there were things that were very appealing about them. So, have a look. Start hanging out with different people online and getting a feel for what kind of things appeal to you. And last week we talked about, went right out of my head. Kathy Duffy. There it came back. Yay! We talked about Kathy Duffy and her 101, it's now 102 homeschool curriculum recommendations. The book that she has, and there's a quiz at the beginning where you can answer this series of questions. Thank you, Dawn. You can answer this series of questions at the beginning of her book, and it tells you like, oh, you might be a classical homeschooler, or maybe you're an unschooler, or maybe you're a unit study homeschooler. That's one thing I haven't talked about at all yet is unit studies. So it kind of gives you an idea. So kind of like listen to what people are saying online, seeing where you're drawn, what appeals to you, what kind of conversations are most appealing to you. And then also maybe take that little quiz in the front of that book. And sometimes libraries will have that book. And if your library doesn't have it and you don't want to purchase it or can't purchase it, you could request that your library buy it. And that would be a great boon to other homeschoolers in your area as well. That would be a wonderful book for every library in America to have. So don't feel shy about requesting that your library buy that book. And so see where maybe your leanings are. And then I have a place for you to go. So I have a series of posts on my blog where we cover, I can't remember at the moment if it's the top 5 or the top 6 most popular homeschooling methods. And Dawn is going to drop a link for you guys. I call it the Homeschool Method post. I think it's the ultimate guide to homeschooling methods is what it's called. And we go over Charlotte Mason, classical, unschooling, school in a box, so school at home. I'm trying to think of what the other ones are. Unit studies are another one. So maybe there's only 5. There might be one more. And what we do is you can go and you can read kind of the main post, and I break down each of the different methods for you. And then at the bottom, there's a little cheat sheet that you can download. And what the cheat sheet does, it says, if you are interested, if you like this, this, and this, you might be interested in this method. This might be the method for you. And here is the first place you should go to learn about that method. And I give you what I think is kind of the best book that distills that method for you. So for example, with Charlotte Mason, I don't send you straight to Charlotte Mason's own volumes. If you're going to do Charlotte Mason, you eventually need to go there. But the first place where you can start to get your feet wet, to kind of dip your toe in the water, is For the Children's Sake by Susan Schaefer Macaulay. And I believe with unschooling, I send you to a John Holt book. So there's a nifty little download for you there. So we have that for you. And then to add on to all of that great information, we break down we have a post for each method as well. And on that post is an interview. It's an audio interview. It's kind of like a podcast with a homeschooling mom who follows each and every method. So like for unschooling, I talked to the wonderful Sue Elvis. She's a fabulous unschooling mom in Australia, and she gives you a great look at like what it's like to be an unschooling mom and what her philosophy is and why she believes what she believes. And I tell you folks, she works just as hard as I do or any other homeschooling mom I know at actively unschooling her children. So she's one of the examples. I talked to Jennifer Dow about classical homeschooling, one of my favorite people in the whole world, Brandy Vinsel, about Charlotte Mason homeschooling, a lovely lady named Margaret Burns, Margaret in Minnesota, about school in the box, like school at home, and then Heather Woody, so about unit studies. Okay, somebody's asking about Waldorf. I haven't worked it into my schedule yet, but I have considered adding to that particular series and doing like a second round and pulling in Waldorf, Montessori, Thomas Jefferson education, the principal approach. If I could find somebody who's really actively doing the principal approach these days, it's not something you hear a whole lot about. But I have considered adding on to that series and adding those things there. Honestly, I've just got to find the time to do it. And right now, I just don't have the time to do it. But I would love to do that. So anyway, that is a great place for you to go as you're starting to identify your methods. And so why do I think it's important for you to identify what method of homeschooling you're using? Is it the end-all be-all? Probably not. Could you homeschool your kid for 13 years and never declare yourself, having this or that method? You probably could. But I think it does a couple of things for you. First of all, I think it helps you with your vision, and that's what we're going to talk about next. I think it helps you really get to the heart of what you really want out of educating your children. And for a lot of us, our desires in education go far beyond, I want to make sure they get a good job one day. And so by going into some of these other things, or maybe we pulled our kids out of school because we felt like there was something inherently broken about the education system. And so we want to do something different than what they're doing. We think children learn differently than what the education system is espousing or using or doing these days. And so we have to look at alternatives. Well, if we think that this is wrong, what do we think is right? If we think that this is ineffective, what do we think is effective? And it's by studying these methods that we can start to kind of ferret out and learn what it is that we think is good for our educational vision. So that's one reason. Another reason is camaraderie. The whole Me Too factor. When you get in with a group of ladies that are using the same methods and you feel comfortable there and you're excited about learning that method and you're excited about using that method, then you've got your people, you've got your peeps, you've got your home, you've got the place where you belong, even if that's online and not necessarily in person. You've got support because you've got these people, you speak a common language, you have people to talk to, you're trying to do the same thing, you're working towards the same goal, and you can lift each other up and support each other and help each other. So those are two reasons why I think it's kind of important to look into these educational methods and figure out, we can't just say this is wrong. We got to figure out what is right. And so I think by looking into different educational methods, we can begin to formulate a vision of what we feel like is good for our kids, which leads me to number 2. So number 1 is start to look at methods. Number 2 And you may just fall into a method, by the way. You may just suddenly wake up one day and go, gee, I think I'm a Charlotte Mason homeschooler. Or, gee, I think I'm a unit study homeschooler. You know, and you may just wake up one day and there you go. So, and yes, Bambi, it can change over time. And if you're somebody like me, I've tried them all. You know, I've settled where I'm at, but I definitely tried them all. And so, and that was a good thing. That was a thing I needed to do. And then I'm very happy with where I'm at. And the fabulous thing is I have all the knowledge from trying them all to share it with you. So there you go. Okay, so number two. The number two thing, and I kind of had this last week for you to dip your toe into, but told you not to stress about it too much. But now it's time to form the vision for your homeschool and start thinking about the goals for each individual child. First year, you're in survival mode. You just want to learn this new routine. You want to learn this new system. You want to figure out what you're supposed to do on Monday morning when you get up, and that is okay. But now that you've got a little bit of that under your belt and you're starting to feel your feet, I just speak in cliches, by the way, just so you know. I'm never going to be a great novelist because I totally speak in cliches. So now that you've done that, then it's time to start thinking about your vision. And so Dawn just dropped the link for you, pambarnhill.com/vision, and that will take you to a 30-minute webinar that I have on my site, and you can even download the audio. There are some slides there if you want to sit and watch it, but if you can't sit and watch it, download the audio and you can listen to it on the go. There's a little workbook there. And what I do there is I walk you through writing your homeschool vision. First, I tell you why it's important for you to have one. And then I walk you step by step through creating your own. And then I walk you through creating goals for each of your children for the coming up school year. So vision is kind of long term. Doesn't mean it can't change. Doesn't mean it won't change in the long run. It certainly will. But it's more of a long-term big picture. And then goals are specific things that you want to happen. You want your kids to learn or accomplish, or a skill you want them to have after a short amount of time. And that time could be a single school year. When you're working with younger kids, you might even set goals for a semester or a 12-week term, especially when you get down to like kindergartners. They're going to change so quickly. You might have it be your goal that they're going to be reading on a certain level by the end of the school year, and they just like speed right through. And so you have to change the goal. So Vision and Goals webinar is going to help you set your homeschool vision. And this is a fabulous thing because then when you go to buy curriculum, you can, I call it throwing spaghetti against the wall. So it's like, it's your homeschool spaghetti against the wall of your vision. And so when you sit down to buy curriculum, you ask yourself, is this going to help me accomplish my vision? And if that doesn't stick, then you know not to make that curriculum purchase, even when it looks really good, really interesting, really fun, you know. But I guarantee that if it's not lined up with your core values and the vision you have for your homeschool, it's going to be something that ends up in the for sale box, you know, before the end of the school year. So, and then yes, Dawn is right. You need to, like, they were talking in the Plan Your Year. We have a Plan Your Year group for people who have purchased our Plan Your Year planning kit. And they were talking in there this week. And one of the girls, Dawn, you'll have to tell me who it was who had this fabulous idea. She puts her vision in the front of her convention. She called it a convention binder. Okay, now first of all, I am like nowhere near organized enough to have a convention binder. So I'm just really impressed with that, the fact that she has a convention binder. And I kind of want to know what's in it. Maybe we should get her to do a guest post, Dawn. And then, anyway, she puts her vision in the front of her convention binder and takes it to the convention with her. So she can open it up and look at it a few times while she's at the convention so she doesn't stray from her vision. I love that. I love that. So Dawn, let's make a note to have her write us a post about the convention binder. So anyway, write your vision. So step 1, start exploring methods. Step 2, write your vision. And step 3, try to stop worrying. Now, you're not going to completely stop worrying. You're always going to have concerns, but now is the time to pull out Teaching from Rest by my good friend Sarah McKenzie and have a read through it and realize that you are not the one who is in charge of your homeschool. Because let me put it this way, you're in charge of your homeschool and you're in charge of the kids in your homeschool. You're not the one who's in control. Because if you think you are in control of what's going to happen, you have a rude awakening coming towards you. Even if things have been running very smoothly the first year, there is going to come a point where you lose control of your homeschool. And so that is just going to happen. And so Teaching from Rest is a great thing to read. And it's very simply, just in a beautiful way, a reminder that you are supposed to do what you are called to do. You are supposed to be faithful. And part of that being faithful is being consistent and is being present and is being serious and making this your vocation, your calling. Homeschooling your children is more important than getting the laundry done. It's more important than making sure that your floors are clean. Probably not more important than groceries because you have to eat. It's more important than your home-based business. Hello. It's more important than all of that stuff. But if you do that and you pray a little, then God's got it. If you do your part, if you're faithful and consistent, then God's going to take care of the rest, and you don't need to worry. And that's what that book is about. And so I think it's a great read for a mom who's been doing this for about a year, and she has felt those feelings, and she knows what those feelings are like. She's had that moment, and she's like, what do I do? So, anyway, that's a good place to go. So as I'm talking to you, like my kids' music teacher's texted me, my husband's texted me. This never happens, so everybody's texted me this afternoon. Anyway, if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. That's what I got for you this week. It was kind of an easy 3-part week. Start looking at some methods, help you connect with your people and know why you're doing what you're doing, because knowing your why is the thing that keeps you from stopping in February. And aren't we all glad it's March? Can we just get a hallelujah for March right here and now? Yay, we survived another February. So figure out your methods, find your people. Also, number 2, vision and goals. And number 3, read Teaching from Rest, because that is going to help give you the strength to go on for the following year and remind you of who's in control, and it's not you. So there you go. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining me here today. I really appreciate it. I love chatting with you and coming on with you guys each and every week. And we'll be back next week. And Dawn Garrett, I sat there this morning and typed what it was about, but I can't remember what it is. It's not picture books yet. That one's coming up. Oh, I think it's podcasts. I think we're going to be talking about how to use podcasts in morning time. And speaking of, and I see Lena's here, got a special treat for you next Tuesday on the Your Morning Basket podcast. Don't miss that one. That is all about digital morning time and how to use technology and digital tools to enhance your morning time. And Lena Sutherland is my guest for that one. So don't miss that one. And then that's the perfect week. We're going to talk about using podcasts in your morning time next Thursday on Facebook Live. We're going to have some fabulous podcast recommendations for you. So drop any questions or comments here down below for us as we get done. And we'll be back later in the day to answer anything that you might have asked us. So you guys have an awesome, awesome weekend. See you later.